Hey, hey,
Hi.
how's it going?
Fade in with the music. I'm gonna work on that.
A little bit.
Hi.
Said that
Happy
100
Friday.
times. Said that
We
100
say
times.
that every week. We never do it. Oh my goodness.
Ah, yeah, it's a bit of a crazy day so far.
I
Not
have had a nice,
not going on.
easy day so far. Very chill,
Good for
relaxing.
you.
I've had a very chill week, as a matter of fact.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's really nice when you have weeks like that because usually our weeks have been pretty crazy,
Yeah.
and I feel like things are slowing down on my end anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, just not slowing down, but just nicely paced. I like
Good.
balance. I know.
Who doesn't?
I have a tendency to keep packing things on, so I'm super busy. And especially with cooking. I remember my friend Kim always said to me, like, if I was having people over, for instance, I always want to make everything from scratch, you know? It's like I work all week and then it's Friday night and it's like, oh, I'll just make something that has like four components and I'll make a cheese spread and I'll make the crackers. And she's like, just buy the crackers. You don't have to make everything yourself. And I have to like wrangle myself back in. And it's like, she's right. I don't have to make everything myself all the time.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
there's baked crackers without oil. I mean, I could still make it fairly nice and, not make everything myself. I mean, go on. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I try to do the same. I mean, I know you do a lot more of everything from scratch, where I've been there and seen that. Yeah, I balance that out for sure, and it really just depends
No.
on how much time I have leading into it. But yeah, that's sometimes it's like hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then you're in the middle of it. It's like, oh my God, why didn't I just buy the
Yeah.
crackers? Like,
No, I
whatever
definitely
it
get to that point. That's when I get stressed because I'm kind of like Shannon in a way where it's like, I have to have the house super clean too. And you are like, I don't even notice that. Like if you stopped over once and I didn't like pick up some stuff and I was like, oh, apologizing. And you're like,
Oh,
okay, I don't not
I
notice
told
that
Shannon.
stuff.
I told Shannon as soon as I got home. I remember that day.
Shannon would have noticed. You and Frank would not have noticed. And I come to your house, I would never notice that stuff. First of all, your house is always like super duper clean and everything's put in its place. And that's kind of why I feel like my house
Not my office. This is
not
like a
your
wreck.
space. That's because that's your space. And that's Shannon's
This
space.
space right here is always a mess. Usually
Oh,
when I would do these lives, I would push everything out of the way just so you
yeah,
can't
I'm good
see
at
it.
that. I'm good at shoving things out of the way. My daughter gets frustrated with that, but especially her stuff, I'm like, okay, going on your bed. But
Most
yeah,
of
I
mine.
spend time doing all that stuff before I start cooking, and then I'm pretty wiped out. I'm just like, whoa,
Yeah,
why am I making crackers from scratch?
yeah, I mean, the stuff that you can make ahead of time, I mean, I'll do that where it's like, all right, the night before I'll make the cheese spread and put it away, or I'll make I'll make the components
Yeah,
and the good stuff ready. If it's all the day out, like when you're doing a hot dinner and most of the stuff has to be done that day, that's when it gets a little tricky when you're juggling, three or four different things at once and trying to time everything out. And, that's where it gets a little rough. But yeah, I balance that stuff out. I'll buy stuff just to make it easy, and then make like the hummus and the spreads and the, whatever it is. And
yeah.
I
I just have a hard time making any. I have a hard time buying anything like hummus or guacamole. Like I just can't do it because ours are so good. Like when you're gonna eat something and you want it to be the way you want it to be. Like for me, there's no cutting corners with guac or hummus because I just love ours so much. Nothing compares to it. I mean, unless somebody else made it homemade and it's really good. Like my sister-in-laws make really good hummus. I love them, but those are all made from scratch. And, I just can't buy the hummus. I can't buy especially guac. Our guac is so delicious. We've got it down.
yeah, I don't know.
No,
Even before we were ever doing this, I never bought guacamole. I mean, I bought it.
no.
It's always terrible and it's always expensive. And it was just like, oh, I mean, I don't know. I've never had a good one from the store or
It's like too
anything.
whipped or something. It's like too creamy. I don't know what they do to it. Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
Even just the taste never. I don't know. I never cared for it from the store at all. I've always made it, but
That's kind of the mindset I get into. And it's like, I think I'm going to not do something. And then I'm like, I'll just make it really fast, And then it's like, well, maybe I'll just make it. even with our barbecue sauce, I love our barbecue sauce, which is a highlight of this week's meal plan. But this summer I've tried to cut corners with that because I'm making so many other things, and it's just like one component of one thing. But even then I'm like, oh, do I have time? I just don't want sugar in my barbecue sauce.
Well, and things like barbecue sauce, also, if you run out, you don't know what people are going to be slathering on, whatever they're slathering it on. But like, then all of a sudden it's like, well, I just made one recipe, so that's the barbecue sauce.
No.
You have to have a backup or, whatever. But
well, it's funny because with this plan, so there's just enough barbecue sauce for our shredded barbecue chicken style soy curls. And so I say, if you're going to make the bowls, double the sauce. We'll get into it. But like, that's why I like doubling the sauce, especially that one. It's super simple to make. I mean, literally, you look at it and it looks tricky only because there's kind of a lot of ingredients. But most of the ingredients I always have, except maybe molasses you might not have. That's kind of a new one that we use sometimes in cookies or in sauces like this one. But it looks like it's like you open it, it's like, wow, there's a lot of ingredients. Well, just pull them all out and you're done. But as long as you're pulling them all out and doing it, just make a double batch, It's like so nice to have that.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to do that for these bowls because let's get into it. The shredded soy curls soak up all of the barbecue sauce. I mean, they still stay nice and juicy and coated. But if you're making the bowls, you want a little bit more. Double anyway and freeze. It's the best barbecue sauce. Yay. It's Mary. Hi, Mary. Hi. Yay. She's so good at that and freezing like you are.
And it is funny you say that because, that was just something I never did before. I never made barbecue sauce because I always thought like, I don't even know how to make it. And of course, you can always go online and read recipes and all that. But it was just like, well, I could just buy it. It's just easier that way. But, and sometimes, things like that, when you find a sauce, like a barbecue sauce, and I don't know, like, over the years, I've tried a ton of them. And after a while, it's just like, I can't find a good one. And then we're experimenting. And it's like, man, you just spent like $7 for barbecue. And it's terrible. Like,
yeah.
You want it down. But yeah.
Also, the more you eat this way, like for you, when you first started, for me, when I first started, you kind of lose that taste. And then the barbecue sauces start to taste so sugary. That's a thing for me when I start eating things like that again. Ketchup is another one. I mean, I was always a ketchup lover. I love ketchup. I still love it. But if I just happen to have some ketchup, Frank buys organic ketchup that he has in there. It still has sugar in it. I do not like using it. Here and there, I'll dunk a fry into it because he uses it. But it's really sugary to me. Yeah. I don't know. My taste buds have definitely changed. I was never a big sugar person. I have a salt problem, that's for sure. But the sugar, I know I do. The sugar, those barbecue sauces they just taste like they're dripping with sugar to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I always say, when you're making these, you can always tweak them out how you like them. You like it a little more smoky, you like it a little more spicy, you like it a little more this. Because even after a while, like even the store-bought stuff, I was still doctoring it up. It's like, you buy the whatever, you buy the smoky one and it has no heat or no sweet. I put a little maple in it. That's like, I could take 15 minutes and just make it myself and it tastes way better anyway.
Seriously, 15 minutes. I know.
But I always do make a double batch of that. I don't know. I always feel like when I'm cooking, especially if we have people over. So if I make a barbecue pole and it's just one recipe of the sauce, then it's like, oh, the sauce is so good. And then we eat and it's gone. It's like, shoot, I wish I would have used, because I would have been eating for the next couple of days. I would have had barbecue.
Well, right. The first time I made these, I didn't know if it was going to be enough for the bag of soy curls. That's like our job. That's what we experiment with. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's just perfect. Sometimes it's not enough. So it's like, okay, now do we double the recipe? Do we make a recipe and a half? And then I can never, I know you don't, I always make his recipes, but I can never just say, yeah, make a recipe and a half, because sometimes you don't know how that's going to taste. You kind of actually have to do it. So I will remake it with a recipe and a half and then readjust all the measurements. And then I have enough. Well, this one, I just know doubling the sauce. I've done it before. It works. It's totally fine. It's like 1-on-1. And you want that extra sauce for the bowls if you're going to make the bowls. So what are we starting with? The sandwich?
Well, the soup was on top.
All right.
I just have them in order that way. I think that's in the letter, in the email.
Okay, we can start with the soup. I'll get back to that doubling the sauce because you don't have to double it for the sandwiches, but
Well, just real quick, just on that same note, yeah, when you're doubling things, you also have to take in consideration like the cook time. So like it may have to simmer longer, it may have to stay in the oven longer. Like
exactly, exactly.
that's where it gets you a lot of the time.
Yeah.
The spices work out usually, but you're right, not always. Sometimes there is a variance in taste.
So
But,
originally, when we designed the site, we were going to do that with the recipes, which was like a huge undertaking. Remember, it was
Yep.
like change the portion size. And then we started thinking it just doesn't always work out that way. I just wasn't
Right.
comfortable doing that because I've seen other sites where it's like, oh, I want 8 portions, and these wacky numbers come up, and you're just like, oh, it's not
Well,
healthy.
but that's in case in point. Had we, and again, I don't know how other websites do it. I'd have to go back and look. But now that I'm thinking through it, yeah, like so when I make like any crumble, I do a double recipe, but it takes way longer in the oven. I mean, it's like
Exactly.
3 times as longer because there's so much volume, especially in the pan that I use. I mean, the pan is
Yeah.
packed, so it's not really spread evenly either. But yeah, I mean, if you cooked it at the same thing, it would be raw, like the same time as one recipe, it would be raw. So you have to adjust all that stuff. So I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe other sites have to do that, I guess.
They definitely do. I was part of different meal plans through the years. I was, well, definitely on Forks Over Knives. I think they do it. But yeah, I've been on them where you do that, and then these numbers come up, and you're just like, what? Is this going to work out? And I have doubled my own recipes, and it doesn't work out, like I said. So I don't know. Anyway, I'd rather just do it ourselves and know, and and I actually, well, I keep talking about the next meal, but I actually put a double recipe in the meal prep. Let's get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to introduce our new winter soup series. Woo! If you read the email yet, kind of rushed this week because we were done. We're like, let's just go live now. So I just posted in the Facebook group, and we just sent out the email. But we love soup, and we know a lot of meal planners love soup and ask for soup. So we thought, why not do a soup a week? So we're going to do that. We're going to do 1 soup a week, maybe 2 if we get ambitious. I don't know, but at least 1, so we can all have some more delicious soup in our lives. And this one is so good. I cannot wait for my daughter to make it. There's no nuts in it. I can't wait for my mom to make it, even though she told me last night she doesn't like chickpeas. I said, well, you're going to like this.
Chickpeas.
She's always bringing up these random things she doesn't like. I never knew that. I was like, well, you're going to try it because it's darn delicious. Anyway, it's so easy. Go ahead. You're going to say something?
Well, I was going to say chickpeas were something I never really cared for myself until I started eating more of them. That was, now I'm eating desserts with them in it.
I know. It's just another thing where, people get it in their heads. I just don't eat those. I don't like them. And maybe no, I can honestly say I'm not like that with beets because I've tried those every which way. I still don't like them. But, like Frank just told me, like when we met, like, I don't like olives. And I was like, what? Who doesn't like olives? They're the best. He's like, mm-mm. Well, now he loves olives because I made him and put him in different things. And he slowly got his palate used to them. And now he loves olives. And I just don't think his family, his mother or father who's doing the cooking, his older sisters, he's got 6 other siblings, made many recipes with olives. Another one was eggplant, because I hear some of them saying they don't like eggplant, they don't like olives, but it's a thing that we all do. It's like you kind of get it in your head. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That's like tofu. You need to try it different ways.
Right.
Tofu isn't just like a block of a chunk of white stuff where it's like, ooh, that doesn't look very appetizing, even though I eat it like that and I love it. Yeah, we crumble it, we crisp it, we do so many different things with it. So be open to the chickpeas, Mom. Anyway, this one is so easy. So you just take 2 cans of chickpeas, and we're trying to make these soups easy as well. So it's like we are using canned chickpeas, 1 drained, 1 undrained. So that means we want the juice in the chickpea can to make kind of like our base for our like creaminess. So you just blend one of them up in the blender and you get like a paste. And then basically you throw everything else in the pot and let it simmer. and that's it. And in the end, I love spinach in my soup. So we're throwing just like a big handful of baby spinach in, and it's just so delicious. I just can't believe I never made a garbanzo bean soup before. There's lots of garlic in it, rosemary, thyme, crushed red pepper. There's really nothing in it. There's no coconut milk. There's nothing for creaminess. It's just the beans that make it creamy. And then we make a little crostini on the side, buy a whole grain baguette, slice it up, rub some garlic on it. I put a little Maldon salt on it. I love salt. And then, you got to eat that with your soup because this is a thick soup. Look at that.
Like a stew almost.
It's almost like a stew. So if you want it thinner, you can just add a little more veggie broth. It'll thin out. I did that. And if you have leftovers, which I made this a few times and I did have leftovers, so then you just thin it out with veggie broth because it kind of soaks up as it sits in the fridge. So it will be really thick when you pull it out. So then just add some more veggie broth, adjust the spices. You might need to add a little more rosemary or salt and pepper. But it is so good and so easy. And I really always have all of this. The only thing I may not have is the baby spinach. I don't always have, or fresh rosemary, which I do still have some in my herb garden outside. You probably have all the ingredients on hand if you have garbanzo beans like I do always. So really nice to make in a pinch.
Yeah. Great kickoff for the soup season.
Soup series season.
Series.
It is soup season. Soup season's here, and I see some of our meal planners have been making our soups.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Well, and not that I don't make soup during the summer, but I just don't make a lot because it is. My wife doesn't like eating hot things on hot days, but I do look forward to the fall. And now, we're getting ready. We just testing, two soups this week that we were making.
Yep, I saw that. Those look good to me. I've got 2 on deck that I'm trying.
Very exciting.
Yep. So everybody go and make this soup. You're gonna love it.
Let me get this.
So back to our barbecue. So we're saying yes, barbecue is for summer, but we love barbecue flavors, and it's so easy and it's so delicious and it's so comforting that why not make it, all year round? And like we were saying, our barbecue sauce is so smoky and delicious. You just put that on so many different things that it's just instant barbecue. And we have a couple of different sandwiches and different things that we do with the barbecue sauce, but we never shredded the chicken before, the chicken style soy curls. So what you do is you rehydrate them like we usually do, but we don't cook them right away. We just shred them up in the food processor, and it's just super easy. If you've made them before, which I know a lot of meal planners have, rehydrate them and then, let them dry out a little bit, and then just by the handful, put them in your food processor, like batch at a time, and then just pulse them, and they shred up instantly. And then pour those in another bowl, do another handful until you're all done. Then you have a big bowl of shredded soy curls, and then you fry them in the pan. You put them in the dry pan, let them sit, and they get so nice and crispy. I mean, I know some people are turned off by meat. I'm not turned off by the texture, and it's such a great texture. It's like everything I remember about pulled chicken. It really is. It's it's those little shreds get so nice and crispy, and then you already have your barbecue sauce made. So at the very end, it only takes 10 or 15 minutes to crisp them up and keep them still a little chewy. Pour all of your barbecue sauce in, stir it up, cook it just for 1 more minute, and it just clings to the shreds. And you don't want to overcook it. It starts to get a little sticky. So just turn the heat off right away. Oh my God, it is so good. It's so good. I can't believe we've never done this before because Julie did this 3 years ago. I can't believe it. We've been sitting on this one. She did it with taco though. That's why I never thought of doing with barbecue sauce. So do we have a shredded chicken taco? I don't know. I'll have to look back, but
We have something shredded.
she did I know the Cuban sandwiches, which if anybody hasn't made those, go make those. Those are so good. That's with the that mustard cheese sauce. Yeah, that's what we did it for. The shredded. She did it again for the Cuban sandwiches. But when I first met Julie years ago, she was shredding this for tacos. So I can't believe we never did that. She was the first one who showed me how to do this. So anyway, that's what you do first. You could make the barbecue sauce ahead. You could make your shredded, you could, make the barbecued soy curls ahead and keep those in the fridge. Those will stay perfect. You just have to heat them back up again. And then I finally came up with a cabbage coleslaw, red cabbage coleslaw that I love. It was such a little thorn in my side because I always want to top a nice barbecue sandwich with coleslaw, but without oil. I don't know. I was thinking of like it needed oil all the time. It needs some kind of oiliness, Well, it just needed a little creaminess. And we mixed it with our Thousand Island dressing, which has pickles and onions already in it. So it's almost like it's like a creamy, it's like a Thousand Island dressing. And then we thin it out with some
Thousand Island coleslaw.
Yeah, and thin it out with vinegar. And it's not like super thick and creamy, but it's just what you want. It gives it that creaminess, like that oily a little bit with the pickles and onions. It is so good on the sandwich and crunchy. Oh my gosh. And then just to top it all off, somebody's excited about the slaw. Is that Mary? Yeah, that's Mary. Yay! Mary, I am not kidding you. It is so good. This sandwich is amazing. And so with that slaw on top of this sandwich, we just had to top it off with our smoked Gouda cheese sauce because we couldn't stop there. I'm talking about the sandwich. Oh my gosh. I have the sandwich up over here. I'm so excited about the sandwich.
You were throwing me a little bit because it all wasn't making sense.
I got the sandwich up. I'm so stuck on the sandwich. Well, that's because in my world, I make the sandwich first and then I make the bowl out of the leftovers. So the bowl for me was like, if you have leftovers from making the sandwich, feel free to make the bowl first. Sorry, I can't see. I just touched my glasses. Yeah, it's all good. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. You don't have to make the cheese for the bowl, but anyway, yeah, okay. Just hopping onto this sandwich. It's the same shredded barbecue soy curls. You make a whole recipe of that. I think you get, did we say 4 sandwiches? Oh no, 6 sandwiches.
6.
Yeah, and the slaw for the sandwiches on top of that. Plus then you just make the Gouda sauce at the last minute because see how nice and spreadable it is? It's really warm and creamy. So you want to you can make the slaw ahead of time. You can make the curls ahead of time. And then when you're ready to eat, just make the cheese sauce, put it on the buns and put it all together. And Mary, I know you like those pickled jalapenos as much as I do. I coat mine in those too. Yum. It's so good. Yeah. So anytime you want a little barbecue, they're a little messy, but who cares? Messy is good. And I found I'm using the Ezekiel buns, the whole grain, sprouted grain buns. That's what I like to use. And I noticed they used to make them really tiny. Yeah. So I was going to make these sliders because they were tiny buns, but I couldn't find tiny buns. They're making these big now. So you can make these into sliders if you can find slider buns. I think it was Mary. Mary, was it you? Somebody, asked this week, like where to find slider buns. Did anybody answer that? Because I didn't know either.
Yeah, I have trouble. Sometimes one of my stores carries just the, they have, they don't have, I think they have something, there's something in them that, I can't remember, but they do have the wheat slider buns, but.
Oil probably.
Yeah, I can't remember. I guess it's probably oil, but. Other than that, the only other place that I've seen them is like in our bakery. Sometimes they'll have like little wheat slider buns.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, they're not easy to find with no sugar and oil. That's why I love that Food for Life Ezekiel, but they're not, I haven't found the little ones. I just found the bigger ones, which are not huge. They're just regular hamburger buns, but they're really good. I like to just toast them up a tiny bit. It's a fantastic sandwich. I hope you make it. And then we have the bowl, which all the same stuff. Don't have to make the cheese sauce. And for these, we just added a little bit. So double the barbecue sauce, like we said, because the curls is one whole recipe. So in the meal prep, I added a recipe for the barbecue sauce and I added the double recipe right under it. Just so I did the math so you don't have to. It's just easy. So you don't have to like, get confused while you're doing it. And then all of this over our quinoa pilaf, which is just a fancy way of saying brown rice and quinoa. Julie's quinoa pilaf, but it's really good. It's like light and fluffy from the quinoa, but a little bit of substance from the brown rice. I do love mixing them together. So even if you use frozen, which I do this a lot too, I buy 1 bag of frozen, 1 bag of quinoa, I'm sorry, 1 bag of frozen brown rice, 1 bag of frozen quinoa, and just mix them together. It's just easy, especially for these bowls, just on the bottom. It's not really, it's covered in barbecues and sauces. I think frozen is fine, but the quinoa pilaf is really good. And I would make that at the last minute. I wouldn't make that early. And then, just steam some corn, because look at that. Corn with the barbecue is always really good. Drizzle that barbecue sauce all over everything. Yummy, yummy.
Bada bing, bada boom.
I love eating like this. Everything works. Do you know what I had for breakfast today?
God only knows.
Mashed potatoes with jalapeno lime crema. It was so, because that was what was in my fridge and I was hungry. I waited till I was hungry. I opened the fridge and I was like, that sounds really good. And it was delicious.
And it was good.
Big bowl of it. Okay. Peanut butter and oatmeal cookies. And the best part about these, they're no bake and they are so easy. Really, you can't get any easier. I made these 2 or 3 times. So how these came about is I had this old recipe, and I have so many old recipes. I don't even know where they're from, and old bins from when I first started cooking this way. And just, I have some of them are just, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know where they came from. So I found this one, was not sure how it would come out. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I think the name of it was 3 ingredient, whatever it was. So I tried it and oh my gosh, they were not cookies. It was like a bowl of sticky maple syrup. I was like, what? Yeah. So that's what happens sometimes. It's sometimes I just want to see, I think, is that going to work? It doesn't seem like it to me. And then it didn't. So then I start adjusting, adding my own things. And I'm like, what is going to get these cookies to stay together? Because they're way too sticky. And so then I go back and I look at I was going to add almond flour. And I thought, no, I really want, I don't really want to get all that crazy. We already have oats in them. So I ground up the oats into oat flour. And as soon as you start adding the oat flour, they finally turned into cookies. I was like, wow, that's all you have to do is add a little bit of oat flour. I'm trying to look for the recipe here. I can't find it. There they are. Yeah, so it works. That little bit of oat flour, and then I added some vanilla, and then of course the coarse Maldon salt takes it over the top for me. You don't have to add the salt at the end. It's just really nice. That little.
You don't have to, but Judy does.
I'll take yours. I'll add yours to mine. I'm salting everything. They're so good. So they're not super, super sweet, because I don't like super, super sweet things. And I think they're just perfect. You get a little bit of the peanut butter flavor. You get the oats. The maple syrup does give it some sweetness. And then that salt brings out all the flavor. And so you just mix it all together, and then not a sticky dough forms, like a nice dough forms. And then you just take a tablespoon, roll them up, put them on your baking sheet with parchment paper, because we're going to put them in the fridge. So you just roll them up and then press them down with your fingers or a spoon. I used a spoon, and then sprinkle them with the salt and just pop them in the freezer first for 30 minutes, because the freezer firms them. They don't freeze. They're not like frozen cookies, but the freezer just nicely firms them up. And then I just pack them up into a little container in my fridge. And you have to keep them in the fridge. I actually have never left them out, so I don't know what will happen. But when you keep them in the fridge, they're chewy. They're just nice, and they're chilled, obviously, but they're chewy. They're not frozen or anything. And they're just really, really nice. They're not like super, super cold. Anyway, they're so nice to have in there when you want a little sweet treat.
And easy and quick.
Wish my daughter could have them. Dang it.
Oh, well. She's used to not having some things.
Yeah, she's coming home this weekend, so gotta get all the nuts out of the house when she gets here, for when she gets here.
Get all the nuts out of the house, one cookie at a time.
That means I have a lot of cookies to eat now. Yeah, I cannot wait for you to make these cookies. I can't wait to hear about them. We love seeing your photos. We love hearing that you love the food. If you do love the food, we love it. So please don't stop posting, and please don't stop making the food and telling us about it, because you're inspiring everybody else to try these things. You're inspiring me. Kim made the mushroom stroganoff, or I think her husband made it recently. No, even Frank said, I told him about that, and he said, "We have not had that in like 3 years." He loves
every time I see something like that, it's like, man, I haven't had that in a while. Like,
no.
Yeah, it is rough just eating, just when you're concentrating on getting new stuff constantly.
I know.
Trying some old stuff, but I do, like, if we have company and stuff, I typically lean on older things that I know, or there's just some stuff that we love, like even the peanut noodles, which my wife loves. We haven't made them now for a while, or the broccoli pasta, like that's a favorite too.
And I just thought of the broccoli soup, because I was going through all of our soups and getting an idea of what we had, and I was like, oh my God, I love our broccoli soup. I must have made that 2 years, I don't know, not that long ago, at least a year ago. It's so good. Why am I not making that? Because I'm cooking all the time.
I know, that's just it. Like, I have 2 soups to eat for the rest of the week, and another meal that I have leftovers that I'm picking at.
But the fun part for me is that we're always coming up with new things that we haven't had. Like the first bite of this barbecue sandwich, it blew me away. I was like, yes, with the coleslaw. That is the fun part of my job.
Yeah, it is fun. And then of course, like the good, the great stuff is when there's not, again, right when you start, there's flops and things like that. But when you hit the homer, then like everyone oh, that's good. My son will be eating, my daughter. Like, now there is no leftovers. Like, where were you on the flop meal?
Right.
4 days ago. That's when I need people eating it. Otherwise, like, I'm just putting down all the flops.
The flop meals. Oh my gosh. Wait, I had a couple of flops recently. What were they? Oh, I can't remember. It was last week. We sidelined a few things.
Yeah.
That's no fun. That is just not fun.
I know.
Oh, so I know. There's a sauce that I really wanted to work, and I did it like 3 or 4 times. And poor Frank, I kept giving him spoonfuls of this, and he's like, pretty good. I'm like, it can't be pretty good. It has to be great. I need some context here. It's just a mouthful of sauce. I don't know. It's good.
Yeah, feedback is just that. I mean, there's going to be things that I know my wife just doesn't like that I make, because I'm going to make it anyway. And I also make things spicy. Like, for myself, I make them way spicy. If I'm making food and I feel like it needs a little red pepper or whatever, I'm still going to do it. But I know she doesn't typically want me to do it. But there's also things I know she just doesn't care for, So it's like, sorry, I'm making it anyway. And whatever your feedback is, keep it to yourself, because I already know what it's going to be before I even make this.
I know. Well, another thing I do for the photos, I remember now that you're talking about this, for the soup, I like to put a little, just to make the photos look nice, I put a little sprinkling of red pepper on the top. And it's funny, I remember like when I was doing this photo, I did that. And then it's like, okay, well, I had a bowl. I didn't exactly eat that. So I put it back in the pot. And then I had to take another photo, because I forgot to put the bread in the photo. So I back in the bowl for another set of photo shoot, sprinkled more red pepper on top, back in the bowl. And then when I was heating it up for dinner, I was like, woo, this is spicy. I was like, oh, I love it that way. I'd even add more.
Yeah.
Frank always makes fun of me. He's like, well, that makes fun of me. He's like, oh, I can eat spicy, but he is like a little bit like Shannon, like sensitive to it. So
Did you guys eat those yellow peppers that Frank gave me for the salsa? Did you guys keep some for yourselves?
Yeah.
Those things were hot. Those were really hot. Did you
Yeah.
try them?
No, wait, let me think. No, I only tried the green ones. The yellow jalapenos?
No, they weren't. They weren't jalapeno. They looked like finger peppers. They were like super thin
Oh
and
my
long.
gosh, I ate those. Those were not hot for me.
Oh, dude, those were hotter than jalapenos. Those were hotter than.
What?
Yeah, those were
I
hot.
sliced it. They're in my fridge. I sliced them all up and I fried them with onions and they're in my and garlic and they're in my fridge for sandwiches. I didn't know they were that hot.
Well, I ate it. I ate it raw just to see how. Like Frank's like, yeah, use it in the salsa. I'm like, are they hot or they're nice? Like I'm not sure. So like I bit into one and yeah, I got the seeds and everything, and my mouth was on fire. But I used them in the salsa, and then which I still have here with the tomatoes. And then I just dried the rest out. I just cut them up and dried them out and ground them up, and now there's like yellow hot pepper, dust as well.
Huh.
So I've been using that on stuff, but
That's
really
why.
Well,
I definitely took the seeds out, so maybe that's why.
They were hot. They were real hot. They were hotter than I expected.
I would never think that. I thought they were more like Melrose peppers.
Yeah, no, they were hot.
Well, that's good to know, Henry. Slipping in those hot peppers. I didn't know that.
We're done. This is just those are just the soy curls and the.
Oh wait, go back. Those look so good, don't they? Look at those things. I mean, yeah. Look, when you really zoom in again, when you really zoom in, whoa, the crispy edges. It caramelizes on there. They just went away too fast. Oh, they're so good.
There's the slaw.
The slaw.
Two extra components this week as well. But yeah, well, I was gonna just say something. Then I remembered that pepper thing. I can't remember. Something else I was gonna tell you. I don't
Must have been a lie.
lie.
Grandma used to say that. Must have been a lie. Like it wasn't a lie. We just forgot. All right, well.
It was on the tip of my tongue. I wanted to say something.
Oh boy, it's gonna come to you as soon as we get off the live. I know. Is it about the oatmeal cookies?
What were we talking about right before I mentioned the peppers? Because I had peppers.
The barbecue sauce.
No, I can't remember. I'm not gonna
remember what we were talking about right before the peppers.
As soon as I hit end stream, I'll remember.
Yeah. You're getting a lot of calls. Maybe we should end this.
All righty, we're getting a lot of calls here.
You're a busy guy.
I'm a busy guy. All righty, well, we'll everyone have a great weekend. We will be back next week, of course.
With another soup for our winter soup series and some more tasty fall favorites. We're on a tasty fall favorites kick because that's what I want to be eating right now. Tasty fall favorites.
Yeah, what am I just make? Man, it drives me nuts.
McCartney's last home game tonight. It's at his high school, last home game. So we're all going for that. He's playing Evanston.
Oh, that'll be fun.
I know.
All right, cool. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.